Thomas here with Much Props, going to give you another how-to video. I have a problem, and I'm sure it's a problem that a lot of other people have, so I thought, why not address it? I make way too many things, and because of that, they stack up on each other in the room behind me and are not proudly upon display. They just kind of group up. I have a lot of masks that I have on display here. I bought a bunch of stuff from PR Props, who is a sculptor and caster and an amazing artist. And those are the things that kind of inspire me when I come into my work area. So I have those things on display, and they are on these. These are mannequin heads that I bought off of Amazon. They're roughly $40, and there's issues that I have with these. It is a nice rigid plastic, but there's no weight on the bottom. So if any weight gets put on the front of his face, he falls over. And my head is quite a bit bigger than this mannequin. So if I'm trying to build a template off of him, I have to kind of pad it with aluminum to build it up to make it my right size. And that's a guessing game. So there's got to be an easy solution to this, both making it more affordable and making it fit the actual size that I need it to. And it was pretty obvious. Why not just template my own mannequin head and put weight in the bottom of it when I build it? And I could probably do it for a lot cheaper. These are $40. The average roll of foam right now is anywhere from $15 to $25. I could probably build 3 or 4 of these out of a roll of foam, so I'm spending less and building more. I could build like 6 of them for the cost of this on Amazon, so let's just do that. Today we are going to build some mannequin heads of different sizes, and I'll show you how you can adjust it to fit you if you need to. Let's get to building. Using my mannequin head as a starting point, I simplified some of the shapes and made it a little larger with foil to get the look and size I wanted. Then I made my pattern using the duct tape and foil method like you see me do in a lot of videos. I traced it onto some poster board and then added my markings. Blue highlights are 45-degree angle cuts inward and green ones are 45-degree angle cuts outward on my templates. This pattern is free like all of mine are and is linked in the description down below the video that you can snag for yourself if you would like to try and make one. I traced this pattern onto some 6mm EVA foam and cut out my parts. My niece and nephew had a trampoline that broke, and my brother, thinking of the craft material hoarding that I do, enabled me to store these up so I could use them. I cut off the hooks on the ends and just super glued them onto the foam inside the bottom piece. Then to keep it from rattling around in the bottom, I glued down some sides and a strap over the top in foam to permanently lock it into place. You could use whatever scraps or heavy materials that you have. This was just the first thing that popped into mind when I started building. Now for assembly time. I slowly line up registration marks and do my best to keep everything flush on the outside surface. Areas that are too proud can easily be sanded back later. Seams that refuse to close I tack shut with some super glue. It doesn't really all have to look that good, especially if you're just using this for patterns, or if you're going to display it, most of it's probably going to get covered by whatever it is you're trying to showcase, so it doesn't really have to be perfect. I attached the right shoulder, then the left, and closed up the back before I put it onto my base. Just make sure you push all the seams together good, as some of the shapes make for a pretty drastic curve. I tried to keep my patterns as simple as possible in as few pieces as I can. My parts are usually labeled by anatomical body parts, if that helps in any way. You could also use this to make a bust of a character. I'm thinking that it isn't too far from a Spider-Man already as it is. I may have just given myself more builds to use this for, so hooray! The head is where I tried to simplify a lot of parts. The nose and the ears were done this way not only to make it simpler and more stylized, but also to create a little more space in those areas. My nose and ears are a bit larger than a lot of other people, and I need that extra space. You could also carve foam and glue it on top of this if you wanted your facial features to be more anatomically correct. Since mine will be mostly covered when having something on display, I didn't think it mattered too much how the shapes looked. Now that both head sides are done and the base is complete, time to close this mannequin head off. In order to make sure that I had a good connection all the way around my neck seam line there, I glued the halves on the base separately. Using the label on the inside of the roll of SKS HD foam as kind of a separator, I start tacking them down, and as I get them where I need, I can pull that piece of paper back and tack them down the seam line in the middle. This is where you have to trust the registration marks and work slowly and methodically as you tack stuff together. Now, if you want to size it for your head size or adapt it for a different size, you need to find the percentage difference in my original and what you want it to be. I'm not too great at math, so I like to use my friend Cosplay Apprentice's pattern scaling calculator on his website. I'll put links to it down in the description. My head is 24 inches around at the forehead, which is what this pattern measures to when built. Measure yourself or the size of what you need it to be and plug that number into the bottom. This percentage that it shoots out will be the scale that you need to use. So to give you an example, let's open up a spawn mask that I made not too long ago. You download the file in the description and open the PDF. When you click on print, there is a more settings button that you can click, and this will give you the option for scale. My build by default fits me. If I click custom, I can then plug in that number from the calculator, add maybe a percent or two for wiggle room, and poof, the scale is adjusted for my new size. I scaled mine down 80% and 60% just to show that it doesn't take much to drastically change the size of your props. Since I was showing you this in the video, I actually made the template early and have it uploaded already. You should be proud. That is a miracle in and of itself. Keep the cover page. It helps with explaining markings, materials, and other assembly instructions you may need. Cut outside the lines and punch out registration marks. This would be basically you starting over at the beginning of this video. I did use a smaller size EVA foam. I went with 4mm on these two smaller versions just to give it a little more flexibility and space on the inside as the parts got smaller. I used the same steps as earlier, and now I have smaller mannequin heads I can use later. For paint, I'm just going to keep it simple and do 2 coats of Plasti Dip, then the build is done. And we are finished. It's a mannequin head my exact size, 24 inches around. Yes, I have a ginormous head. I also now have one that would fit a newborn and one that would fit a small child. These are a lot more practical in terms of cost and in terms of trying to build off of or display things that are my size and not the size of some random company's decision. So it definitely helps. Also, you can use scrap materials that otherwise you would just throw away. Like my brother was throwing away the springs to his kid's trampoline, and these work perfectly to weigh these down just enough so that it can hold a mask or whatever I need to put on it. So definitely something that you could use materials that otherwise would get discarded. Maybe you will try and make one of these yourselves and impress your friends with your ability to make a mannequin head the exact size of their head so that you can build something that is more accurately fitting and not loose or really, really tight. That is the goal. Maybe you'll get some... Yay! And inevitably, they're going to ask you, how'd you make that? You can give them one of these. Tell them, much props. Heads up. If you enjoy what I do here on YouTube and want to see more awesome builds like this, please join these amazing people here listed with me over on Patreon to build a bigger, better, more creative community together.